What is up, guys? Mr. Basie here, and today we're doing some more Seduce Me to the Demon War. Now, we're actually almost done with this in a matter of speaking, because we're actually going to be finishing up Diana. Of course, that's the only character left to play. Last time we did finish up Damien, and of course, in the beginning of this one, we are going to be doing the giveaway, so keep a lookout for that. If you haven't entered the giveaway, by the way, you might as well do it right now. I know this is technically speaking the last one, but we're going to be doing basically the rest of the codes in this session, because there are some people that haven't claimed their codes. So there's going to be some, I think there's at least one left over, if not more. So keep a lookout for that. We're going to be going ahead and doing that at the end of this episode, or at the end of, at the end of this particular episode, not the end of this whole series, or when we're finished with Diana. So if you want to enter, I'm probably going to do more giveaways in the following episodes, which is kind of a good segue into that, because there are actually a few other things that were produced for this game that actually came out almost like, throughout the time after this game was released. So we're going to be jumping into those. I'm not too sure what they're about or where they take place within the storyline. To my understanding, they can fall between the first game and the second game, but we're going to be doing those as well. And we're also going to I'm probably going to do a live stream where I go through all of the choices that we didn't before, just to see what happens. We already did a lot of choices and everything, but we're probably going to really go through this game very meticulously and see all the choices we didn't actually get to do and all that stuff, just for fun. We're probably gonna do that on a live stream at some point if I do decide to do that, which I would actually like to. So if you want to see that, drop a comment down below. I'll set up a time once this is all finished and everything, let you guys know when we're going to be doing that. And then we'll, obviously move into that. So really quick before we get started, I know I've been talking for a bit, but I'm trying to move as quick as possible. In terms of Walking Dead, for those of you that are really enjoying that, we will not be progressing anymore after the episode that just came out a little while ago. It should have came out by the time this episode's released, because there's no more episodes that are released yet. I was wrong. It's not all 5 episodes. Only the first 2 episodes are released so far. So that's kind of bummed me out a little bit to find that out, especially with how long we had to wait for it. I figured they would just have it all included in one, but they don't have it yet. So we're going to be waiting for that, okay? But that's obviously still going to continue when the next one comes out. In other news, when it comes to Batman, we're going to finish up episode 1. You guys are going to be able to decide whether you want that as a full-on series, because every episode is out for that one, so we can play that. Personally, I'm really enjoying it, but if you guys want to see it, you'll have to leave your feedback and comments, and there's going to be a poll at the end of episode 1, and then we'll move on from there. But in other news, basically, there's going to be a bunch of new games coming out. We're going to be doing more visual novels. Do not worry. I actually really like them, but we're going to do some small games that aren't going to take too long, some horror games, some fun little one-off series that I have planned that you'll have to just wait and see, but they're going to be really fun. So we're going to jump into those and then move into possibly one of the suggested visual novels that you guys gave me, because you guys gave me a lot of suggestions, which I really appreciate. So with that all being said, I know that was a lot of information, but I figured you guys would want to know about it. Let's jump right into it. Pretty much right where we picked up before. I'm actually backtracking a bit because it was a while since we've done this. But basically, she just came into the demon world. I'm pretty sure the castle was just on fire, and then she just put out the flame, and Sero's like, bro, you're pretty badass. So we're moving on from there at this point. Dinah looked to Sero, intensity still embedded in her eyes.
Where are the king and queen?
I heard Sero's breath hitch. I turned to look at him. He had a look of pure pain and guilt. What had happened? Dinah walked over and stared down at him, now almost glaring daggers at him as she clenched her fists at her sides.
Speak, Sero!
The imp demons. While we were fighting the flames in the army, the imp demons snuck through our defenses.
Shit. My heart, despite not fully understanding the situation, began to tighten. Something was incredibly wrong. Sero shut his eyes as a pair of demons I assumed to be allies rushed over and began casting magic over his body, closing his wounds.
They snuck into their room.
Oh, shit. Dinah suddenly turned and bolted towards the castle, causing me to jump up. Dinah! I began to sprint after her, following her inside the castle and trying to keep up with her. Her panicked breath kept me following her direction, despite her fast twists and turns through the ashy corridors.
No.
I could hear Dinah sobbing, praying as she ran. I did my best to keep up, not wanting to lose her and not wanting her to be alone right now. We turned into a long hallway that had a pair of golden doors at the end. They were unscathed, as if the flames had not disturbed the door or perhaps the room behind it.
Please be alive. Please.
Oh, jeez. Dinah bolted for the doors and began to pull them open, grunting at the weight. I stopped running, skidding forward from the abrupt stop. Whomever she wanted alive, I hoped that they were as well. As the doors finally opened, however, the foul stench of blood erupted from behind them, the scent filling my nostrils. Dinah flung the doors wide open and could only stare at the sight we both saw. Blood. Blood covered the floor, the walls, oh yeah. See, now I'm kind of getting flashbacks of how delicious this was. The entire room was painted in gore, skin, bone, and massive amounts of blood. See, that's the delicious part. The only three things, barely coated in red, stood in the middle of the room on the ground. 2 broken crowns and a small tiara that was barely large enough to fit a newborn's head. Oh shit. Dinah slowly walked into the room, the blood on the ground painting her bare feet, and she fell to her knees in front of the items, staring down at them. I couldn't bring myself to enter the room with her. I watched as she lifted them to her chest, curling her shoulders over herself and shaking almost violently.
Father. Mother. Audibel.
Oh, Orby. Poor Orby. As she continued to grieve over the ornaments in her hands, a dark, almost deadly and evil-looking aura surrounded her body. It began to flicker and grow, like a dark flame that wanted to engulf the room she knelt in. As it reached an apex and began to violently flicker through the room around her, Dinah arched back and screamed to the ceiling, her voice heavily laced with magic, pain, and rage. I'm gonna turn my speakers down a bit. Don't get in her way. Watching her body burn in the intense black and purple flame-like energy made my heart stop in fear. I had never seen her like this, and I was scared as to where her anger would drive her next. You know, if somebody was doing this, I probably, especially, you know, in her case where this shit spewing out of her and everything, I probably wouldn't actually go up and stop her because we would probably just get incinerated. It's like getting too close to the sun, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, you know, I'm sure she wouldn't mean to hurt us, but I'm sure all that magic coming off is not good. You know what I'm saying? Like radiation or something. So we're going to watch in silence. Hopefully that's the right move. I'm doing it because I just don't want to get like literally crispy. I kept my distance, giving her space to mourn and grieve. She had lost 3 people very close to her, and she came back to her castle in flames. She needed space and time. I watched until she finished, curling into herself and whimpering hoarsely. Dude, now I feel bad that I left her. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to choose this one again. I just want to see if I would have got vaporized. As heartbreaking as this situation was, I couldn't let anger consume her. Not like this. If she wanted to vent her rage, then it was better to aim it at the ones who wronged her, not let it burn in the room where her family died. I stepped into the room, blocking the waves of energy from my face with my... You can do that? And eventually made my way to the screaming Diana. Diana! My words couldn't reach her. I stepped closer, almost towering over her, before dropping to my knees, bracing myself and wrapping my arms around Diana. Her screaming stopped and her body froze within my arms. Diana quaked like a shivering child in my arms as I pressed my forehead against her hair. Diana, we'll get your revenge, but you must save that rage for the fight. I was met with silence as my reply. After a moment, Diana finally slumped into my arms, while the energy around her died out.
You're right.
Shit, we didn't get vaporized. I kind of want to go with this one now. You know what? Fuck it, we're doing it. Diana and I left the room with her, unable to turn around and look back. We walked through the ashy corridors of the castle, Diana silenced by the sight and by her own grief. My heart was heavy for her. Still, the demon lord who had done this was still a threat at large, and who knew when he would return. You know, this is the, you know, what I'm thinking here is I understand the baby's vulnerable and everything, which, you know, kind of, it's like how vulnerable was the baby really? Because, you know, we went through that scene with Orabelle and she was like insane. Like she was really powerful. But you know, the I guess her parents, like how many imps got in? You know what I'm saying? Like we were kind of destroying those imps. Like were her parents weak or something? Like I don't understand. Like are they catching by surprise? Like your castle's on fire. I'm assuming you know it's under siege. You're not just sitting there like drinking tea and shit. You know what I'm saying? Playing tea party. Dinah led the way to a room, which as expected was as burnt as can be. However, Dinah waved her hand through the air, casting some sort of silent spell. Through some sort of prestidigitation, the ash and soot in the room vanished and the furniture and decor were repaired. We at last stepped in and Dinah slowly lying down on the bed, unable to carry on further. Looking at Dinah's face, her eyes were puffy and red while her skin almost became void of any color beyond the taint of her demon marks. If she wasn't breathing, one would assume that she was dead. Diana stared at the ceiling, a world of emotion swimming in her eyes. Despite what had happened, at last she spoke.
I need to send you back.
Great. See, in the frickin'... In the other ones, we're getting sent in. Now we're getting sent out? Shit. Friggin' smash and dash. What? Now was not the time to think about me, and I knew it. Besides, I came here for a reason. I wasn't gonna go back knowing that Dinah needed support. I had no regrets in coming here, and I would help her through this. No, Diana.
It's too dangerous here.
I don't care, Diana. Diana sat up slowly and looked to me, a form of weak anger in her eyes. However, she knew that it was fruitless to argue with me. After all, she made a deal with me and I could see the obligation to obey buried behind her anger. Diana closed her eyes and lowered her head.
The Demon Lord will most likely return.
And we'll be ready for him. I gently took Diana's hand and lifted her chin so that she had to look at me. The anger that was plaguing her melted into sadness and broken hope as she stared back into my gaze. There were remnants of rogue tears adorning her face, and seeing her so scarred made me frown. I knew that we would get through this. We just needed to rest for now. We would deal with the issues this world brought after.
My lady?
Oh. Oh yeah, what are we gonna do about him? I forgot about this. Because he's kind of into her too. Diana and I turned our heads to see Sero by the open door, and I stepped away from Diana, giving her space. Behind him, multiple soldiers, servants, and other demons rushed down the hall, most likely to check for the other issues and possibly try to fix the damage on the castle.
Yes, Sero?
Who is this human?
For a brief moment, I could see a look of disdain in his eyes as he looked to me. However, it only lasted a second as he looked to Diana, waiting for her to reply to him.
Sero, this is my guest. She came back with me to...
I'm your guest? Are we not in some sort of thing? Diana looked to me, trying to find the words in my eyes. What was I to her? Damn. My curiosity bubbled as I also awaited the completion of her answer.
She came to aid me in this war.
Bitch.
But what of your fiancé? What of the other sons?
Oh, okay.
They are gone. They have disappeared into the human world, and I can no longer trace them. I have failed.
So this is interesting. I think we're picking, in all the other scenarios, the war was going on for years, right? I think we're actually picking up way before this, like right when she came back, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of interesting, actually. The guilt and grief in Diana's voice deepened, most likely reminding herself that she saw the result of failing moments ago. Sero, however, stepped up to Diana and knelt in front of her, surprising me. What was he doing? He was a guard, first off. Why was he being bold enough to step to her?
You didn't fail, my lady. The Demon Lord attacked us despite giving us his word that he would wait for you to return. He broke his end of the agreement.
I know.
Staring at Diana and Sero, I could see that they had a very close and deep connection. Was Sero a friend, or was he something more? I could recognize the emotions within Sero's eyes as he looked up to Diana. He looked to be in love with her, or at least had some form of ultimate care for his lady. Sero gently took one of Diana's hands and placed his lips upon it. Instantly, I could almost see energy flow from his body into hers from the kiss alone. Was this how energy transferal worked when you weren't the giver or receiver? What? The color in Diana's skin returned and she let out a sigh with her body relaxing at last. Sero, however, continued to keep his lips over her hand. Something in my gut irked me about him. No, clear our throat, man. This is, we're letting him kiss our girl. Not that I was against Diana getting energy, but Sero seemed to be, we can give energy, you know what I'm saying? We did before. But Sero seemed to be extremely cozy with her, and being that she was someone who I potentially wished to be closer with, this was now an obstacle I had to slowly break Diana away from. Damn, the cock block. Diana and Sero both looked up to me, with Sero lifting his head from Diana's hand. At least it worked. Realizing what was going on, Diana looked to Sero and smiled nervously before pulling her hand away from him.
Thank you, Sero.
Look at him, he's like, damn it, I had a halfie. Sero, however, stared at me, most likely knowing why I did what I had done. Another flash of disgust flashed in his eyes before he looked to Diana and bowed his head.
I am forever here to serve.
Delicious. Sero stood and stepped back, looking to his mistress and to me.
Do we plan to retaliate, my lady?
We will. I expect the Demon Lord will come for a second attack, not realizing that I have returned.
Diana looked to me, a small glimmer of fear in her eyes, but her resolve rekindled and she let a serious visage cover her expression.
I will meet him on the battlefield should he come again.
Damn. Is it gonna be like that? Because that would be different.
My lady, you've just returned.
And now she's boss.
That I have. But the Demon Lord will not care if he learns of my return. If anything, news of my return will spur him to attack sooner than later. I must be there and stop him.
Diana looked to Sero with a cold expression, making Sero stand up straight like the guard he was meant to be.
Tell everyone to mend their wounds and prepare for a second invasion tomorrow. I expect the Demon Lord will be ruthless enough to attack in the morning. Let everyone know as well that their princess has returned.
Sweet. Sero nodded and turned to the door to do his job. Before he exited the room, however, Dinah called out one last thing to him, which seemed to make him freeze.
And when you are done, please retire to my room. I will rest here for the night with my guest.
Oh, damn. Now he's limp.
As you wish, my lady.
Jeez. With that, Sero left and closed the door behind him. The way Sero answered Dinah seemed forced, but I could understand why. After all, if he had feelings for her, I became an obstacle for him as I was with her. That didn't stop me, however, from wondering where I stood with Dinah. She was going to stay here with me? This was my room. Dinah let out a sigh and moved in the bed to rest against the back wall of the bed.
Come, we must rest.
Well, she's being very forceful. I nodded and walked over, lying beside her. However, instead of Dinah laying down, she guided my head to rest on her lap. You're not going to sleep?
Demons don't sleep, dear. At least not in this world.
Well, why not?
Because if we shut our eyes for too long, then we open ourselves up for someone to take advantage of us, or kill us when we're not aware.
Jeez. I gulped, now worried and frightened to sleep. Dinah chuckled, however, and petted my head.
You can sleep, however. I will be resting, but my eyes will remain open.
The fuck? Can you truly rest like that?
Demons and humans are different, dear. Demons can function for years without needing to rest, as long as they continually feed on energy. However, demons can rest to stop spending energy. Thus why we have beds.
Amongst other things. My curiosity began to peck at me again, but my exhaustion took control of my body as I felt my eyes gradually shut. I could hear Diana whisper,
I hope that you don't mind me taking your energy as you sleep.
Bitch! I'm like wondering why I'm just passing out. Before I let sleep consume me, I shook my head. It was alright. Dinah needed as much energy as she could for whatever the Demon Lord had in mind. I felt almost a bit honored that she was taking energy from me, as odd as it was. At last, sleep consumed me. Despite what was happening around me, the world of sleep was peaceful and calm. For the moment, I could truly be at rest. At least for the moment.
My sweet Isaiah.
Oh, why do you sound creepy as shit, dude? Huh? I looked around the darkness of my dream, trying to pin down the direction of Sero's voice. Why was he in my dream? There was no reason why he should have been here. The sound of footsteps echoed in my head, causing me to grip over it and look around frantically. What was happening? At last, a line in the darkness opened up to reveal it was an open door. Opening it was Sero, with a kind smile on his face, staring into the dark space. What? I looked at him, but he didn't seem to notice me as he stepped into the room and walked past me. I followed his walk and gasped at what he was walking towards. Well, now illuminated by light, I looked in the sight of Diana in a jail cell on her hands and knees, weak and frail as she stared at the one approaching her.
Sero, what is happening? Why am I...
Shh. Everything is just fine, my lady.
Gross! My heart stopped as I watched Sero kneel in front of Diana and slid his hand between the bars to lift her chin. Diana seemed to nuzzle his hand softly and unconsciously, making him chuckle.
Soon enough, I will destroy the Demon Lord and hand you the throne of the entire world. Everyone will bow to you as their queen and ruler, as they rightfully should.
Why is it that every guy seems to have one of these scenes like this where he's just like a weirdo, you know what I mean? Like every guy, all the Incubus dudes, I'm pretty sure. And now Sero, Sero was a cool dude. I mean, he is, despite the fact that he literally had a skin flap hanging the whole time.
Sero, I don't understand.
You may not understand now, but you will in time. I promise.
It's not weird or anything. Diana crawled closer to Sero, wrapping her hands around the bars to keep her up.
Where is she? What happened to the human?
The human? I have a name. For a moment, Sero stared at Diana, looking completely oblivious to what she meant. Hey, I'm right here! Despite knowing that what I was seeing was a dream, I instinctively called out to Diana, hoping she would see me regardless. To my displeasure, she didn't.
Who are you talking about, my queen?
You know who, Sero. She...
Sero silenced Diana by gripping her chin hard, making her gasp and stare up at him in shock.
My lady, I don't know who you are talking about.
Alright, dude, shit. Diana whimpered in his hold in fright. Fear painted over Diana's expression as Sero pressed his forehead against the bars to stare deep into her eyes. I felt myself rush at Sero and try to grab him, but my hands merely phased through his body like I was a ghostie.
My lady, you must stay here for now.
Why?
Diana's single word died out as she stared into Sero's eyes. Something in her eyes began to shift from red to gold. However, her black pupils slowly morphed into glowing black crosses. What was Sero doing?
Because I have not yet finished the Demon Lord, my love.
Oh shit, look at his eyeballless. My love, why the sudden change in name? I could only watch as Sero leaned back with a grin.
Once I've finished this war, then you may come out and fulfill your destiny. With only me at your side.
Oh shit. Getting pleasure from this? Staring at Diana, I watched as she began to shed tears. But they were not clear as water, but black as oil. On her chest, a black burn in the shape of a cross appeared, glowing with some sort of dark aura.
May those useless memories burn away. Remember only the one who has served you his entire life.
Damn, you can just do this? Look at this! That's some crazy shit right there, dude. Sero! My words were futile, but I couldn't stand there in silence. However, as Diana's tears finally stopped, the stains on her cheeks drying along her skin, Sero stared into Diana's eyes, burning his gaze into them.
Now, do you remember the human?
I have a name! No, it couldn't be. The burn on her chest flashed a bright white aura before settling down, revealing the permanence it had over her skin. It was a real scar on her flesh, no longer a figment of magic. Sero smiled lovingly at Diana before guiding her head forward and leaning in to kiss her between the bars. Diana closed her eyes and practically moaned against his lips, most likely feeling some sort of energy from it. However, Sero pulled away gently and made Diana pant slightly in need. Was she that desperate for energy now?
Never mind, my love. Forget I said anything.
Sero ran his fingers over Diana's cheeks, causing Diana to shudder at the touch and let out a pleasured sigh.
Now rest. Nothing will harm you in here.
That's creepy as shit, man. Diana nodded before slowly laying to the side and letting her body slowly shift to slumber. With another chuckle, Sero stood and turned around.
That human's life for a stone destiny. A perfect trait, if I do say so myself.
What is a stone destiny again? I remember them mentioning that. I snarled and rushed at him, but wound up running through his body and falling to the floor. Sero walked back towards the open door and stood by it and looked back at Diana with an almost evil-looking smile.
Nothing will keep us apart anymore, Isaiah.
Jeez, man. I jumped up and ran at him, but as he stepped through the closed door, I found myself shooting up out of bed to sit up, panting. I guess Diana's not getting any sleep with us either.
What? What's wrong?
I pissed. I looked over to see Diana sitting in the same spot as she was when I fell asleep and stared at me with wide, concerned eyes. There was no mark on her chest and no crosses in her eyes, which made me feel somewhat relieved. I looked around, trying to see if Sero was in the room, but he was nowhere to be found.
Are you all right?
Tell her, right? She would know. I mean, she's in tune with the magic. If our dream meant anything or if there was anything about it, she would know. I had to tell her about the dream. I turned to her and looked and took her hands, making Diana gasp and stare at me in even more confused shock. I had a dream last night. Sero locked you in some sort of jail cell and wiped your memories of me, and I couldn't do anything and—
Wait, stop. What?
Shit, is this a bad thing? Diana took one of her hands from mine and placed it on my head. Did she seriously not believe me? I glared as she stared at her hand. It's true!
I believe you, but I want to see it for myself.
Oh yeah, that's right. I stared at her, now realizing that she was taking energy from me, from my forehead. Diana closed her eyes and remained silent for a moment. How would she react? As she pulled her hand away, she smiled at me.
It was a nightmare, dear. I'm sorry you had it. But I can assure you, no magic like what you saw exists, nor would Sero ever do that to me.
Great. I stared. I could see the genuine feeling behind her words, but something in my gut wouldn't let this go. How could she be so sure that magic like that didn't exist? What if Sero was a terrible person? But what if—
Sero has been with me ever since I was a child. I would know if he was a bad person. There's nothing to—
Suddenly, the door to the room burst open, causing Diana and I to separate and stare at the intruder. It was a soldier who seemed to be a runner for the army, judging from his outfit.
Princess, the Demon Lord approaches!
Oh shit, really, dude? Diana was right. The Demon Lord was going to show up today. I looked to the far window to see the sun barely up over the oddly colored purple sky. It was morning, as Diana expected. Diana quickly threw her legs over the side of the bed and stood, pointing to the guard.
Tell every able-bodied soldier to head for the gates. I will be there shortly.
Damn, you must have been hauling it. Could you imagine how much he was hauling ass?
Yes, Your Highness.
The soldier ran out, followed by a handful of soldiers that either accompanied him or were heading in the same direction. I looked at Diana, surprised to see her ready. How much energy did she take during the night? As I got a good look of her, something about her seemed to have changed, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
I have to thank you.
Huh? For what? Diana turned to look at me with a smile. As she did, I could see a faint layer of purple energy surrounding her form, and her eyes glowing completely gold.
You gave me a large amount of energy last night.
You're welcome? Where did you take it from? Where were your hands? Her voice echoed through the room, making me internally shudder. She sounded almost ethereal, and the power behind her voice almost drowned my senses. It was as if she were no longer a simple mortal, but a goddess. She's not a mortal anyway. How much energy did she consume last night? Where are my nipples? As the energy and glow in her eyes faded away, Diana smiled. Diana gently took my hand and rushed with me out of the room, guiding me out of the castle around us. Servants and soldiers rushed in one direction or another.
I need you there beside me when I face him. You won't be hurt, I promise.
I followed step by step, nodding in reply. I felt a bit honored that she wanted me with her, but I shook off the excitement, knowing what I was walking towards. The Demon Lord was approaching, and we would be face to face with it. Diana led me through the castle grounds and onto the battlements overseeing the distance beyond the kingdom, where a large line of creatures lined up and outlined the horizon. I felt my heart stop as the tallest figure stood between them and us. Taller than any man I had ever witnessed was a man I was meeting for the first time, the Demon Lord. The mere sight of him sent fear down my spine, but this was the man who hurt Diana, so he was my enemy.
City of Lilith, rejoice! You will fall before the sun reaches its peak.
Diana released my hand and stepped between the embrasures of the wall and walked through the air towards the ground like she was descending an invisible staircase. As she did, I jumped at the sound of the soldier on the ground pointing their weapons towards the incoming army. Diana's voice bellowed through the air, causing the line of creatures to step back in fear. As her feet touched the ground, the air seemed to pulse with energy. However, the Demon Lord stepped forward with a dark grin.
Succubus, you have returned. You have failed to bring my sons home, it seems.
Crazy is my posterior with stripping meats, needless to say. The Demon Lord laughed at whatever Diana had shouted. That was a pretty funny statement, making me worried for Diana. Would she be okay on her own? She stepped forward a couple of feet before pointing her palms towards the ground. What is this? Cheeks? Oh man, that's actually pretty cool little scene here. Those are all the guys over there. She's gonna blow them away with one big like tit swipe.
Soldiers of Lilith, come to my side if you wish to shed my enemy's blood.
As Diana spoke, the soldiers who had gathered at the front rushed forward and stood in two lines at Diana's sides, pointing their weapons at the Demon Lord and his army. In number, Diana and her soldiers were outmatched 10 or 20-fold. However, something told me that the battle would be in Diana's favor. At my sides, a large line of archers positioned themselves and aimed at the army, ready to fire on command.
Steady, men!
I looked to the side to see Sero walking down the line with his hand raised, waiting for a signal. However, the sight of him made me remember how he was in my nightmare. Could he be as evil as he was then? From Diana, a large, thick lean piece with a gigantic mouth began to quickly sprout and spill out from a magic circle floating above her chest, sliding around her body and down towards the ground. As I stared, I could recognize the shape of the mouth from when Diana first met me, when she dangled me over it before letting me make a deal with her. Soon, the wing piece released itself from Diana's body and took physical form with purple and black scales. A head formed where its teeth was, convulsing with new moment as a wicked purple tongue lashed away its newly formed mouth. A giant 100-foot snake now stood between the Demon Lord's army and Diana's army. So this must be that, remember, in the previous one we were going through our spirit creatures or whatever, our spirit animals, and she had the panther, or whatever it was like cougar or something like that, the black cat, and then there was the snake. I guess this is it. It hissed at the creatures in the front line and quickly began to slither forward in hunger. Fuck, she don't feed it? I didn't get a chance to watch it attack. I turned back to Diana to see her lift up off the ground and form a purple saber in her hand, lifting it above her head.
For the pride of Lilith, to battle!
Oh shit, it's happening right here. At her last word, Dinah flew forward and slashed through the air, causing a large purple arc to shoot out of her saber and strike down in a section of the Demon Lord's front line. I watched as both armies charged forward towards each other and began to clash swords. Beside me, a rain of arrows flew from the battlements down towards the incoming section of the Demon Lord's army, causing me to duck in case they returned fire. To my surprise and glee, the Demon Lord's army couldn't push Dinah or her army back. They held their positions and cut down every enemy that came at them. The Demon Lord, watching instead of fighting, glaring as Dinah flew through the air, cutting down sections of the army with ease. The snake that Dinah had summoned was dealing major damage to the enemy as well, carving through the lines and devouring handfuls of them at a time. Damn! Literally, like the sand thing from Star Wars. Each time it did, it either got bigger or became much more menacing. I could barely take it all in. The battle was merciless, seemingly endless. Dinah's army was small, but had strong morale, cutting through the Demon Lord's men with ease. Yeah, man, we got Sergeant, freaking Rabbit, all the generals, and I'm assuming all the people under them are pretty powerful too. The archers beside me continued raining arrows on the incoming soldiers, hoping to nickel and dime their numbers for the ground troops. That's a good plan, man. I was glad that Dinah wanted me here, but I knew that I wasn't ready to fight in a war, so I kept crouching to watch the battle safely. Eventually, Dinah's army began to push back, forcing the enemy soldiers to either retreat or try to regain ground. Dinah, however, decided it was time to deal with the real threat and swoop towards the Demon Lord. Both demons arced their weapons at each other, Dinah with her saber, and the Demon Lord with a giant sword, and clashed steel. As they did, purple flame and red lightning spasmed from the impact and pressed against each other in a battle of strength. The Demon Lord looked so much bigger than Dinah, but somehow Dinah matched his strength and did not budge in the party.
How? You cannot be this strong!
She took my nipple energy.
You know nothing of true strength!
Some of the battling around the duel stopped just from the sheer sight of Dinah matching the Demon Lord's power.
I am the Princess of Lilith. I will defy your will and save this world from your tyranny once and for all!
A collective gasp echoed through the air as Dinah somehow managed to push back against the Demon Lord, forcing him to step back in the party. Dinah was doing it. She was defeating him. Well, she pushed him back. Let's not jump to conclusion. I believe her, but let's not jump there. Dinah, the Demon Lord slid his sword from the party and swung again at Dinah, making her block, but failed to push her back. He repeated his attack three times, but continued to be pushed back each time. The soldiers around them took in the morale inspiration and fought back tenfold, forcing the Demon Lord's army back over the arching horizon. Dinah and the Demon Lord, however, continued to clash swords, beating steel to steel. As the Demon Lord finally jumped back, he formed a large ball of red lightning in his hand, shooting it towards Dinah like a flash of thunder. No! The attack impacted, sending Dinah flying back, but with her wings. Dinah managed to flip back to face the Demon Lord with ease. In retaliation, Dinah formed a spiraling set of purple fireballs above her head and chucked them at the Demon Lord. With a glare, the Demon Lord slashed through each ball, forcing them to dissolve into the air. Oh shit! Dinah glared hard in reply before flying at her opponent, slashing through the air with her saber. From there, it became a battle of blades and close-range magic attacks. Neither side would give in, and no soldier dared to step in, afraid of being the victim to one of their attacks. The duel became blurred by the sheer speed passing between them, frantic and powered at once. It was slightly dizzying. Finally, the two slid away from each other. Dinah was intact, breathing heavily from exerting so much energy, and the Demon Lord was weaponless. Adjusting my eyes, I could see that he was no longer carrying a weapon and was gripping his arm tightly to stop some wound from bleeding out.
How could this happen? How?
You're getting shittied! Dinah didn't stop. Dinah didn't respond. She flew forward to engage him again, but stopped as the Demon Lord's body became overcome by red lightning. As if the lightning had ended him, the Demon Lord's body vanished.
I
Bitch!
will return, and your kingdom will fall!
He's being a little bitch. He's retreating. His voice echoed through the air, haunting everyone and making the trees around us bend and sway at his might. However, as the voice died out, the army the Demon Lord left behind vanished as well. What? A bunch of shadow clones? It took a moment to take in. We had won the battle. We fought and drove the Demon Lord and his army out of the kingdom. We did it. Quickly, they did it. We didn't do shit. Quickly, the soldiers of Dinah's army cheered huzzas for their victory. Dinah's snake vanished at last, and Dinah herself slowly began to fly back towards me. I was grinning ear to ear as she slid between the embrasures to me. Pleasure? I'm just kidding. However, I did not expect Dinah's eyes to roll in the back of her head and for her to collapse against me. I wrapped my arms around Dinah as she indeed fainted in my arms. Diana!
Isaiah!
No, just stop. As I collapsed on my knees with Dinah in my arms, Sero rushed over and dropped to his knees beside us, taking one of Dinah's hands. Diana, however, didn't react, even as energy began to flow from Sero to Diana. Oh shit. Let's just assert our dominance right here. She needed energy to recover, and I had to help. I gently took her head in my hands and kissed her, letting her unconsciously take my energy. I could feel warmth slowly coming back to Dinah's skin as we kissed, making me slightly smile. Dinah's free hand gently slid up between our bodies and cupped itself over the side of my neck. If Dinah was awake now, she was enjoying the kiss we were sharing and wasn't going to let go just yet. Damn! Right in front of Sero, I could feel my nerves dancing as energy slipped from me into Dinah's lips. Before long, Dinah disconnected that flow, pulling away slightly to look up at me. Dinah slowly lifted herself up onto her feet. Instinctively, Sero and I both grabbed onto Dinah's arms, helping her up. She looked to both of us with a kind smile.
Thank you.
You're welcome? I couldn't now, am I going to get my nipples back? I couldn't tell which of us she was thanking, but I accepted it with a smile of my own. You did it, Dinah. You drove him back. Dinah chuckled a bit before standing up straight. Her wings that had been folded against her back splayed out behind her near us, causing Sero and I to step back. As Dinah began to speak, her voice booming through the air, the cheers around us became silent.
Friends, we have won this battle, but they will not be gone for long. This is the beginning of a war to end tyranny, to end chaos.
I could tell that every demon in the area had their ears and hearts open to Diana. I felt myself become full of courage just from listening to her speak.
You have shown great courage today, but you must build even more for the war ahead. The Demon Lord will try to cut you down, but we will prevail. As I am the last living heir to this grand kingdom, I swear unto you all that I will fight until the very end and free this world of the evil that is the Demon Lord. With this, I urge you to stand with me and fight by my side, not as my subjects, but as my brothers and sisters.
Damn.
I ask now, who will stand with me?
I'm assuming everyone that already was, but, go on. I'm not going to interrupt the inspiration. The sound that came after was loud and eardrum piercing. The sound of 1,000 cheers beat through the air and showed the allegiance of every demon in the area, and then some. With some fucking dudes hiding in the trees and shit. I could only stare in awe as Dinah took in everyone's cheers and looked in a heavy breath. It was then that I knew that I had become part of something grand, at the side of a woman who would change history. Wow. Alright, so we're going to stop it there. Because that was a lot. That was a lot of new stuff. And I mean, that was really cool to see that whole battle and everything. Hopefully you're enjoying this one. It seems like it's going to be really action-packed just from what I've seen so far, so we'll have to see, man. I'm really excited to finish up Seduce Me. I think Diana's storyline was kind of a fitting end, to finish this game. Or I guess wrap up the main storyline, not the other episodes we're going to do after this. So hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you're thinking of this so far. If you're someone who has played the game before, or maybe you're not, what story do you like better now that you're kind of seeing everything? We haven't finished this one yet, but we're close. Okay, we're gonna jump into the giveaway really quick, and we're gonna meet up back again, and we'll close out the video. All right, guys. So we're here with the giveaway today. I'm just gonna go ahead really quick and scroll through all the names here so you can see. You guys can go ahead and pause it and just find your name. Make sure it's in there. If it's not, make sure you drop a comment down below to let me know so I can get you in there. But before we actually get started with this giveaway, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the positivity and love that I see in the comments, pretty much every single video. I went back to make sure that I had gotten everyone from the Matthew playthrough, just pretty much to make sure. And I was looking through the comments, and this was around the time, the beginning of the Matthew playthrough, I believe, where I had just gotten back, after that month-long absence because of what happened, prior to this. So I was just really kind of shocked, to go through and read those again. Of course, I read them the first time, and I even responded the first time too, but just to go back and see all those and see all the nice things you guys had to say and how supportive you guys were. Honestly, the Seduce Me community, the Sage family in general is really supportive and loving. And that's honestly why I call it the Sage family, because it's really like a family, you know what I mean? I can always count on, in my Seduce Me videos to have just really positive, loving comments. I don't think I've ever had a negative comment on my Seduce Me videos, which I think is a first. I don't think there's ever been a series where I've never gotten a bad comment. I'm talking about through the whole series. You know what I'm saying? There's at least been one negative comment in some degree. with my other series. But with Seduce Me, I don't think that's true. I think I've always seen good positive comments. So I want to thank you guys for that. It's freaking awesome. So moving on with the giveaway. Oh, and one more thing before I get on with the giveaway. Sorry about that. But just so you know, in the previous videos, I know I haven't been commenting back. I've just been really, really busy. Sometimes it takes me like 5 days or so, or by the end of the week when I have a little bit of time towards the end of the week, I'll actually go back and do all the comments. Like last night, I went through and I commented for an hour, just going back and commenting to everybody, because I really do like to comment to everybody and get to everyone's comments and respond. But I just don't always have the time these days. So, you know, I'm more concerned with making the videos because my schedule had gotten a lot smaller since, you know, the previous occurrence. So, you know, just know that I'm reading all your comments. I always read all the comments. I get an email every single time I get a comment. It dings. I read it. I see what you guys say. And of course, you know, obviously I always heed what you have to say, whether it's tips, whether it's a nice thing you have to say, or whatever it might be. I'm always reading the comments. So just keep that, you know, in mind. If you don't get a comment replied, I really want to get to everybody, but if I don't, just understand that that's the case and that I am reading everyone's comments and I'm seeing what you have to say. So with that being said, let's move on to the giveaway. We have 2 codes left. I just checked. After this, we'll have 1 code left. So it'll be up to you guys whether you want me to give the code away at the end of the Diana, you know, playthrough, because right now I'm giving away the Damien code basically. It'll be up to you whether or not you want me to give away the Diana code at the end of Diana's playthrough or at some point during the episodes that I'm going to do after this. Like there's little mini episodes that follow the game. So it'll be up to you guys whether you want me to release it during those or at the end of this playthrough. It's really up to you guys. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below. All right, so here we go with the giveaway. Good luck to everyone. There's so many names in here. I'm actually kind of excited to see how many entries there are. So 3, 2, 1. All right, Sparkly Watermelon. You won. Congratulations. Again, there's only 1 code left. So we have a lot of people, 409 entries in this list, man. It's absolutely crazy. So thank you guys so much for entering. I'll see what I can do for the following episodes. Maybe I can pull something special for you guys. I'll have to talk to the developer to see what I can make happen, because I know 1 code isn't a lot left, but considering there's so many people in this list, I really want to do something special, especially considering how awesome you guys have been, like I said before. So, again, congratulations, Sparkly Watermelon. You'll have to let me know in the comments, you know, that you saw this, claim your code, say I won the giveaway, or, you know, all that, whatever you have to say to claim your code, you know, because I want to make sure you're going to use it if you're still watching, if, you know, you've seen that you won, all that good stuff. So make sure you claim your code in the comments down below, and that goes for every winner. So with that being said, we're going to jump back to the game and close this out. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for us today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Seduce Me. Of course, we're not done yet. Hopefully, you know, the winner enjoys their code. We will be doing more giveaways. We'll probably do another one at the end of this one, which will be the Diana code. And then we might do, or we're going to do, if there's one left, which I'm pretty sure there is, on one of those following episodes that we do after this, that we're going to play once the whole game is done. All right, guys, and with all that being said, I really hope you enjoyed. Like I said before, definitely make sure you rate the video what you think it deserved. If you did enjoy, please consider sharing the video as well. That kind of stuff really helps me out a lot, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or any social media really, or even word of mouth with your friends. That's really awesome too. Of course, it directly helps me as well as the entire community and is greatly appreciated. So with that being said, if you want to become a Sage in Training, make sure you subscribe today. And as always, this has been Mr. Basie, your favorite Sage, and I'll see you in the next video.